afternoon once again, everyone, and thank you very much for being here. I see our guest has joined us now. Let me welcome Moses Babatope.
Hello, sir.
He's just putting on his video now. Hi, Moses. Good to see you. Welcome.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much. Thank you. I was just telling the people earlier that you were logging in from outside the country, so we owe you.
No, not a problem at all. Thank you, sir. I'm so sorry.
You.
I mean, Cameroon internet has been such a struggle, but of course, I'm looking forward to this, and I hope that we have a great session. I just found out that the hotel I am there's some music in the background, so I'm just telling them to reduce it. But I'm looking forward to the conversations. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. You can see that I have already warned by someone that she has lots of questions. I'm sure it's the same for everybody else. So good to have you. Good to have you. Well, everyone, welcome. Thank you so much once again for being with us, for joining us today. This is the Filmmakers Forum. It is organized by the Nollywood Studies Center, a unit of the School of Media and Communication of the Pan-Atlantic University. And it's a forum which we use to facilitate conversations amongst the filmmakers themselves and between the filmmakers and the audience, the film viewers, so to speak. We have with us today Mr. Moses Babatope, who is the Group Executive Director of Filmhouse Cinemas and the Managing Director of FilmOne Entertainment Nigeria. He is the co-founder of both organizations. He has vast experience with cinemas, having previously worked with Odeon Cinemas Group in the UK, where he rose to the position of Special Project Manager. Mr. Babatope is also a co-founder and director of Talking Drum Entertainment Limited, a film distribution company based in the UK. I think we need to ask him if there's no conflict of interest between these two organizations. The Talking Drum Entertainment Limited focuses on promoting Black film and TV content. He holds a degree in international finance from Middlesex University Business School, London, and is also known as a writer and a producer. He has been recognized as Entrepreneur of the Year by the Harvard Business School Association of Nigeria. So once again, Moses, you don't mind if I call you Moses directly, I hope. But welcome and thank you once again. Now, let's set the ball rolling. Yeah, these titles that you have, I guess, are big ones. But can you give us some insight into what exactly your functions are, so everybody knows really who they're talking with or talking to?
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. I'm really hopeful that the connection here is clear. If not, maybe they often say, once it's not clear, turn off your video. But please let me know if I'm audible. I'm so conscious of the connection here. It's been a bit challenging since I've gotten
here. We hear you very clearly so far. We hear you very clearly so far.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for having me, sir. It's a great privilege to be able to share information, share knowledge, and talk about what we do more in the film business space, in the wider creative sector. You asked a very pertinent question. Sometimes where in the business world, we're sometimes very carried away with titles, either, for to be able to, maybe to be able to get people to take you a bit more seriously, maybe for career progression reasons. There's always various rationale, but we try in our own organization for it to be more specific and focused. On the Filmhouse Cinema side of things, we are a cinema exhibition company focused on the development, building, design, operations, management of cinemas in Nigeria primarily, but with a vision to expand cinema footprint. Of course, a Nigerian company, but expand cinema footprint across Africa. As you rightly read out my profile, we have, myself and my co-founder have a number of years of experience working with the biggest cinema chain in the UK, Odeon Cinemas. And our vision was to bring back a lot of that expertise and a lot of the experience we've got in there back to cinema, business in Nigeria. So that's what we do on the cinema side. As group executive director, my job is to support the efforts of the group CEO in ensuring that our vision of cinema going culture in Nigeria is attained, but also securing financing, securing the right kind of partnerships to help with our expansion of cinema, of the cinema infrastructure in the country is achieved. So that's what I do in my role as group executive director. Of course, I'm co-founder of both businesses, so there's an owner-manager type responsibility with that side on the cinemas. On the FilmOne side, FilmOne is more of our content side. And again, maybe to bring it into context, both companies, Filmhouse Cinemas and FilmOne Entertainment, are part of a media entertainment group. So there's a holding company that that has basically vested interest in both companies, and so we have the platform or infrastructure, the cinema, and then FilmOne Entertainment is the content side. And on that side, we oversee co-production, co-financing, distribution, aggregation of content. Before we were more specifically filmed content, but now we're looking into all forms of content, episodics, unscripted, all that kind of stuff. We're looking at that, going forward. We started off as a theatrical distribution company when we set up Filmhouse Cinemas in 2012. And because cinemas has always been what we've always known, but over the years we've grown in experience, but particularly been exposed to data points that we get in the cinemas. It meant that the natural progression was to, widen our distribution capabilities, but also learning from the data points, get into the business of making content. So working with the best talents around to bring the best content as we can, for our audiences in the cinemas and other platforms. So I can go on and expand what I do, but I think that's it in summary, sir.
Great. Thank you very much, Moses. That was very clear. However, it leads me to one question, which I think has probably crossed the minds of some people, which is that these two arms that you have spoken about, the FilmOne and then Filmhouse, because that structure, you are involved in production, you are involved in distribution, and you are involved in exhibition, which is the full chain. Now, does that not give you a certain unfair advantage, which is in the sense that, because as a distribution arm, you will take on other people's films. How do you really fight against that very logical preference that you might give to your own products over others?
Thank you, sir. It's a tricky question, but I'll do my best to answer. I'll do my best to answer. The way I try to address it is, first of all, Nigeria is a very virgin market. I think in terms of the opportunity that exists, if you're looking at a market of 200 million people and all we have is less than 60 cinemas in the country, and a box office less than $20 million, a modern cinema industry less than 20 years, it shows you the vast opportunity that exists in the market. And for us, we had choices to make, whether we fold our arms and let status quo continue to happen, or take significant risks. And I have to use the word risk and highlight it, because as you know, in the creative sector, in specifically the film sector, there's little or no support for what we do. So we decided to make a conscious effort to say we're going to create something out of nothing. Thanks to our predecessors, the likes of Silverbed and Genesis, we were buoyed with some confidence that there was something here. And why I'm going over this is to kind of create and set context. So one, I've established that a vast opportunity exists, that even with our influence so far, there is so much more to do, and there's so much more for various competitors and various people to come up and take advantage of the opportunity. But we had to make a decision to make something out of nothing. And that was what birthed the cinema at first. It was because there was probably not the kind of innovation or the kind of growth or different thinking in the distribution and production space that we also saw that opportunity and thought it was only right for us to explore that. And what I also like to say, sir, is in setting up these companies, a lot of what has helped us and propelled us is collaboration, is working with the best filmmakers, working with the top talents to harness, like I again keep using data points, harness what we've been able to glean from data and try our best to build a new culture that was not here before. I like to challenge people that talk about, for example, cinemas and the fact that we're in cinemas. We went out to secure the first private equity financing for any, creative business or entertainment business, I dare say in West Africa, if not in Africa. And that expanded the number of cinemas that we have now and led to explosive growth in the cinema sector. And the data points from the cinema sector is what has led to a lot of the interest from global partners. Somebody had to, or a group of people had to look at that opportunity and find a way of making it tangible. If we rested on our laurels and were just satisfied with that, I dare say maybe we would have not seen the kind of interest that we're seeing now. So, sir, there was an opportunity. The opportunity still exists. That's what led to the exhibition side. And from a corporate standpoint, it only made sense to also separate the entities. So whilst I say it's a media entertainment group, there are two separate companies with separate shareholders. And I should mention that. Of course, I won't go into detail, but separate shareholders. And in a sense, a very, very different management structure. So for those that wanted to delve in and maybe want to be a bit more, how would I call it? Want to be a bit more investigative of how we run. We do try our best to be as arm's length and as separate as possible. So, like I said, that vacuum existed and the cinemas were established. Anybody that's followed our trajectory will tell you that December 2012, the cinemas were established. August 2014 was when FilmOne distribution and production was established. In 2015, that's when we went into production. And then in about 2018, 2019, that's when you started seeing a lot of the work we do in aggregation. So everything has been a progressive step, not born out of the fact that we want to monopolize or dictate or assert unfair advantage, but because an opportunity existed and because there was expertise to take advantage of that opportunity. And I like to always address this question by saying, I think our track record also demonstrates a level of, competence and a level of consistency over the years. The last part of your question was, how do we separate, the tendency to be more biased or to be biased towards our content? For us, it's the product itself that is the major determinant. Of course, we've built an infrastructure and we've built a team that over the years know what they're doing, and we can, more than a number of people, maybe produce films faster. We have the platforms, but what we try to do is ensure that if a product is competitive or if a product stands out, then that product should be given all the support possible. So from a cinema standpoint, when a product comes, whether we be from Silverbird or FilmOne or Genesis, that are all distributors, if that product is capable of getting audiences to pay and come out in numbers, Filmhouse cinemas will support that product maximally. As you know, Filmhouse cinemas is not only filled with FilmOne content, FilmOne entertainment content, it's filled with Hollywood content and a number of things. And there's a reason why it has, on its own merit, become number one cinema chain. That's because it maximizes the potential of every film that comes there. Another reason why it's ahead is because it's invested in the kind of cinema technology and cinema infrastructure that, audiences tend to perceive as good value for them. So that's what has given that advantage there. So I like to see a lot of the tendency to see our business as maybe monopolistic, or seeing our business as too dominant, as I like to I like to see it more from a merit standpoint than a deliberate ploy to kind of stranglehold the industry. So those would be my remarks on that side of things. Maybe I should just talk about the film entertainment side. So when films also then come to us for distribution, we assess them on their merits. Are they able to compete against what's in the market? Can they generate enough returns for us for as distributors get our fee, but they also make returns, against their investments? Another reason why we went beyond cinema distribution is to prove that we want to be able to exploit the rights beyond just cinemas. We want to take it to airlines, we want to take it to VOD platforms. And sir, building out a lot of these relationships, whilst it suits a lot of our films, it's also very, very beneficial to the industry. As of today, we've supplied over 100 films to Netflix, and we only have a fraction of those that have been produced by us. And those films have done well because we followed a certain methodology, to ensure their successes. So my final remarks on this will be to those that have concerns. Let's continue to focus on the opportunities that exist in the market. Let's continue to do our best to create platforms and more infrastructure, to support our distribution of our films locally. And let's, perhaps encourage those that are taking the risks, to take our industry forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Moses. I think you have already answered one of the questions that has come up in the box, which is the one about David, who wanted to find out really how it's done. But from what you say, what the filmmaker should focus on is quality. Okay?
Yes,
at least I think that's to put it very simply, to focus on that the film will be taking on merit if it has the due quality. Now, I know that you have, at least from what I heard in the past, what you have tried to do is to also provide some guidance to the filmmakers. Because yes, you are demanding quality, but like you have also recognized, there's a lot that still needs to be done in our industry. Now, do you still do some of that hand holding? Because I know that in the past you have done that to point people in the right direction as to what kind of quality you are looking for.
Okay, sir. So I think we to an extent do that by virtue of the information we share. And there's something called the annual yearbook, which is a summary of the industry performance specific to cinema over 12 months, 12 calendar months. So we do that. We also have supported and worked with the CAN to provide weekly information on performance of films. We've also we're always ready and willing to engage in conversations like this to share more knowledge and information about how it works. Where possible, we would go to, I'm in a film festival now in Cameroon. We would travel to film markets, film festivals, engage in panel discussions to discuss and talk about trends, talk about the state of the industry, the prospects, the challenges. We're always talking about that, but more specifically to the kind of quality that we look out for. We're always very careful because creativity can be very subjective. How you see a film, and how you enjoy it can be different to how I see it and how a lot of my colleagues see it. But there's some tenets that tend to be consistent for films that would do well at the box office. And we're very vocal about this to our filmmakers. We're very specific that the films must have entertainment value. Before, it used to be construed that it has to be comedy. But I think a number of films have disproved the fact that if you do a film that is non-comedy, but has strong entertainment value. So memorable performances, memorable lines, have spark, some kind of cultural interest or spark conversations. People tend to follow that. Of course, if it's backed with enough marketing that people are aware that this kind of film has been made, So we're saying entertainment value. Right now, you can't get away with, technical quality, great pictures, great cinematography, using, the pictures to also convey the message in the scene, great production design, great sound, all that kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, there will be exceptions. There might be ones that might not meet that technical quality, but they have deep, great story and great entertainment value. So every time, and we have exceptions like that. But generally speaking, those points are the things that we look out for, well backed with marketing. There's yet to be a box office hit, right, in Nigeria that has not had great or innovative marketing behind it. So marketing is a very key part. Now, I keep telling producers, marketing effort is as important, if not more important, than the production effort. So if you noticed in the last year or two, you will notice that a number of the things that we're doing are actually quite groundbreaking in terms of our marketing efforts. A film like Ghetto is an example. If you look at what was done with a musical video, or what was done around even the fashion, what was done with the merchandising and the car that was used and was taken around, what was done with in terms of digital digital marketing and experiential marketing. So that, yes, quality is one side, but there is that, marketing side that needs to be taken into consideration. All of this, and maybe putting aside the marketing, all of those other points I meant, there should be a commercial, there has to be a commercial value in the film as well, particularly as it relates to cinema. And I should make that very clear as it relates to cinema. Our cinema going audience are at a place where cinema going is as an escapist medium right now with the average Nigerian cinema goer. They want to be entertained. They want value for their buck. They want to smile and talk about the film with friends. They don't want something that they overtly have to think about. They don't want something that will scare them. They just want to go out and have a social experience. And that's why that commercial value is very, very important. So these are all the things that we've gathered over the years and seen a consistency to. There's a reason why, the top, 25 films, there's a particular type of genre and particular theme to them, and particular things that have been done that have led to the success of this film. And again, I stress that this is more for cinema. For the other platform, there is a bit more appetite to be more experimental. It's the very notion of paying a one-off fee to access thousands of content means that you're a bit more experimental and a bit more, tolerant and a bit more relaxed in your watching, as opposed to when you pay a fixed amount that is as much as that subscription amount, but you want to see something in 90, 100 minutes and you want to really, really be entertained. I hope in a very scattered way I've addressed some of the points. Sir.
Not scattered at all. It was very clear. I'll take a couple of questions from the chat box here. Now, Tony asks, aggregation, he says, is a buzzword in the sector that generates a lot of anxiety and conspiracy theories. What does aggregation actually involve, and how is it applied by FilmOne? This is linked to part of Adebimpe's question, in which he says, as an aggregator, it seems that you get only the films you distribute or production. Please tell us exactly what goes on.
Sorry, sir. It was muffled a bit towards the end. Adebimpe's.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, no. There are two questions that I'm putting together. Tony is asking.
Yeah, I got the first one.
Okay, no, the second one.
I got the first one.
Okay, the second one.
Aggregation.
Adebimpe is still on aggregation because she says, as an aggregator, it seems you get only the films you distribute or that are involved in the production, or that you're involved in production.
Okay.
Please tell us what exactly goes on.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, sir. As an aggregator, the work of an aggregator is collating, putting together a set of content on behalf of a bulk buyer. That's for me the simplest way to define what an aggregator does. So, whereas a distributor would have a distribution agreement to exploit a specific film across multiple platforms, an aggregator is specifically collating a wide range of content for a buyer who intends not to buy one product. He wants to buy a number of products in that territory. That's what we do in the aggregate in terms of our aggregating relationship. So our aggregating relationship with Netflix, for example, we, by God's grace, have been able to, have a good track record, show a level of expertise. The films we've done in the past have worked well. So we are seen as, people that can represent them decently in the market and can do all the checks possible and have the relationships. So whilst I might not have a contract with you as your distributor, I have access to your content by virtue of relationships, either directly as a company or through an agent. And my work is then to ensure that the rights to your content exist and is valid for my clients who wants it. And I do that across board for the contents that are eventually selected by Netflix. So everything from metadata information to everything around the film: who is the director, year of production, who is the cast, what's the production company, what clearances of music, and all that kind of stuff. I do that and work that with each and every film that comes to me that I believe meets the criteria of my client. So remember, my clients will also give me a criteria to work on, to be able to collect this. And just to talk about Adebimbe's question, so by being a distributor as well, I already have direct relationships that are even formalized, and I know a lot more about my own films or that of my own clients, on the film side, and those then are infused with the other relationship, the aggregator relationships. So you're not wrong to say our films would make up a lot of that list, but we also are an email away to get submissions for films that we believe are eligible enough for the platform. So if you email us and you let us know that you have a film that meets the standards, or even if you are not sure, we look at the trailer or a teaser and we think it's good enough. I always say to people, your content is your key. Your content is the gateway. Once I look at it, I'm like, because I'm going to get a commission by successfully pitching it, to the buyer. So if your content is great, I will be after you. And there are a number of relationships that we have that once the key things I've met, I see a good poster. Of course, it doesn't tell me all the story. I see a good teaser and a trailer. Then I want to see the screener, or I want to see, a copy of the film. And it's as simple as that. The more of those films that I am able to expertly select as part of my list, and they perform on the platform, the better for me, the better for you. You make money, I make a commission. My standing with my buyer and my buying client is great, and that's how the relationship continues to grow. So that's what an aggregator does, and that's what we've done for Netflix, and we do for some other platforms as well. And to be honest, it's also a no-frills type of relationship, in the sense that, like I said, it's specific to the platform, but we make sure we have to do all our due diligence, because there's also a risk in that. Particularly if people want to be insincere, if people want to be exploitative or cunning, they will tell you one thing, you submit, and they've exploited it or given to multiple people to submit, and all that kind of things happen. So as well as it sounds, buzzword aggregator, it comes with a lot of responsibility and a lot of resources go into it as well.
Thank you, Moses. Now, on the back of that, two questions about people are asking. Well, you mentioned something about quality. So the question here is why FilmOne did not carry Lady Bucket and the Bucket Monsters, and also Lionheart.
Okay. So, sir, I'm going to be very careful here so that I'm not quoted. And I believe I'm talking to students and people in the film industry.
Yeah.
Lady Bucket, I think that, so let's separate FilmOne entertainment content side. So FilmOne, the film never came to us from a distribution standpoint to consider for release.
Okay.
So we didn't have that from a FilmOne standpoint. From a Filmhouse cinema standpoint, however, I believe it was something to do around the terms. So just to educate people here, there is something called terms, just like as any business, the terms of trade, right? So there's terms of selecting a film, and playing a film in your cinemas. And I think it boiled down to terms. I was aware that it was of interest. Of course, it was an animated film, was of interest, but that was also one of the most busy periods. If anybody remembers, in December, if you follow the cinema window very well, that week that it was meant to release, I think there were about 6 or 7 films to release. And typically before we release, there will be a number of consideration weeks before, because you need to plan your weeks, you need to plan, your periods. And there was no landing on the terms. It was not about the quality of the film. There was no landing. I see a chart saying what it was in other cinemas. Their cinemas negotiate commercially, and they negotiate based on strength. It's business, so the terms were not met at the time, and therefore the film wasn't booked. I'll move swiftly to Lionheart. For us, Lionheart, just for people to know, I've been friends with Genevieve and Chini, our manager, for years, particularly for my time in the UK, where I worked on the premiere of Mirror Boy, but directed by my dear friend Obi Emeloye. So, I have a great relationship with them, and we were on course to actually release Lionheart in Nigeria. But unfortunately, what happened at the time, if it happened now, I think it would have not been an issue. It was a question of windows, and I'll explain what windows are. For every distribution outlet, there is a window. The cinema window is seen as the theatrical window, and for you to take advantage of or maximize the value of every film, it's important to keep the windows as exclusive as possible, or give them an exclusive period. And to summarize, the exclusive period was going to be in jeopardy. That was what happened with Lionheart. If anybody recalls very well, Lionheart played for 2 weeks and was then launched on Netflix afterwards. For us, the danger with that kind of precedent for a relatively new market as ours, hoping to grow, is that by breaching the window, we're now saying that, look, here's a film that's going to release, but in 3 weeks' time, it will be available on another portal. Therefore, your limited number of people that will go to cinema, you are basically saying to them, don't worry about that money you'd have put, to watch the film, which is advantageous to the filmmaker and everybody in that ecosystem. Don't worry about that. Just wait for it in on the streaming platforms. Whereas you can actually maximize everything that can come from cinema and still get the streaming outcome. So for us, it was too early in the day to toil with that structure that we've put in in the industry. That was our principle that we stood on. Other cinemas played it for their reasons. We respect everybody's position on that, but that was our own principle that we stuck to, and to preserve the industry. And we cannot compare ourselves. So it's happened. People say, "Oh, but it happens under climes." Like I said, sir, 2004 is when modern cinema came back to Nigeria. There was one cinema then. We've not had the explosive growth that China has. Yes, but we've had some growth, but not the explosive. One cinema, but we're still less than 60 in 2021. If you look at where China or Russia were in 2004 and where they are now, that's what you call that kind of growth, and people can make experiments. But we're still growing this thing. Between 2015 and 2019, we're doing double digits. Why would we want to tempt fate and and take that kind of risk? And so those were the principles that that we just thought it was too soon to do that. The pandemic has, however, taught us that there needs to be flexible. and we're having day and date launches, I don't think that that will be here to stay, as evidence with a lot of things that we're seeing around, that there's a rebound, particularly in China, with the theatrical sector coming back. So, I feel like we have a responsibility in the industry, those of us involved in the industry, to preserve as much as we can in this cinema sector and extract as much of the value as we can for premium films, because they've already proven that it can be quite impactful and the world is already watching. So imagine if we have more cinemas and better films and they're well marketed, how much value we can generate locally. And from there, we can explode globally. That's what the music guys did. None of the big music performers did it outside in. Everybody did it inside out. Grew here organically in Nigeria and blew it out. And that's why we must ensure that the local market works. And we ensure that by, staying true to windows and respecting it. In terms of flexibility and adaptability, we need to have it as an evolving discussion, but we need to understand that dynamics.
Great, thank you very much. That's very clear indeed. On the back of what you've just said about growing internally, let me make reference to some numbers. By the way, I must commend you for the yearbook. I think it's a beautiful piece of data that you have been providing over the past 2 or 3 years. It's a very useful document indeed, and it's part of what I think we need to know what's going on. Now, in the 2020 edition of the yearbook, it is mentioned that there are now 77 cinemas in Nigeria spread across 20 states. Okay? I was actually quite surprised that last year, in spite of all the challenges, 11 cinemas were put in place. That was pretty striking. But however, these 77 cinemas are in only 20 states, and 27 of them are in Lagos. Now, the yearbook acknowledges that we have the potential to accommodate 900 cinemas. And of course, the important aspect of that is the creation of jobs. Now, what you've just said about building internal structure and so on, what can we look forward to? What are the possibilities in the next few years of actually coming closer to this mark?
Great question, sir. And I could talk for days. But and that's in spite of a lot of the challenges that we consistently face as entrepreneurs, as creatives. There's this resilience about the Nigerian, citizen, about the Nigerian, that is not replicable anywhere else in the world. And that's why you can see in the heart of a pandemic, you have the highest grossing Nigerian film ever, second highest grossing ever. In the heart of the pandemic, you have a Grammy Award winning Afrobeats artist. In the heart of the pandemic, you have, various, strides that have been made. Like you mentioned, 11 cinemas coming on stream. And we're seeing, unlike many other markets, I don't know whether it interests people, our friends in Ghana have had their cinemas shut down for the last 14, 15 months. We have been opened and we've had, people, not only, we've had our cinemas open, but we've had people also patronizing. We've had, I dare say that some of the better films in the last 2 years have been made during the pandemic. And why I'm giving a lot of this background is it's giving a lot of optimism that there is so much more to come. So you asked a good question. What can we do to get this thing exploding? It's the keyword, the buzzword, capital. Apart from capital, is this kind of conversations, intellectual, academic, conversations, research-oriented, looking for solutions, right? Engaging, the academia engaging with, the corporates and finding creative ways, to unlock the potential. If the government is not ready to help, how can we work together? So I think market research, to really find out what the audience wants, to really find out what kind of experiences they need, that would really be helpful. I think the kind of also market research in terms of, or also in terms of academic work in terms of what kind of capital can we design that is bespoke to our markets, right? That is patient enough, but also but also has the mechanism of entrepreneurial mechanism of ensuring that we're not working on lazy funds, like, but has enough how would I term or period, the kind of things that would help us really, really, really propel the growth. Do we have the local content creation? What's it called? Local content creation. I'm trying to get my thoughts now. Local content creation capabilities. Yes. Do we have the local content creation, local content consumption market? Yes. What we don't have is the infrastructure. Do we even have the base of people that can afford cinema going? Yes. Do we have people that can work on the technology to ensure it's better? Yes. Unfortunately, we've not made the sector desirable. We've not made the sector attractive, for the kind of people that can put money to, expand it a lot. And that's why we have taken upon ourselves that the yearbook becomes an advertorial of what is possible in the industry over a short time. That's why we're putting ourselves out there. For me, people are asking, why am I in Cameroon? For me, I'm there to say, you know what? When you collaborate with the Nigerian market, you unlock, a potential 206 screens at the moment. And potentially, if the film is good enough, the box office is kept in Nigeria, most of it. Potentially, as a Nigerian business, if I'm aggregating their content, of course, the revenue comes to a Nigerian business that pays taxes, that employs people. Those are the dots that we're connecting. So yes, we want to be a Nigerian business, but we also want to be Pan-African in our approach. So I think that capital is such very, very needed now. And I think that we've demonstrated, we've made all the mistakes in the past, but we demonstrated equitable use of the ones that were hard to find. And if we can find the next level, the next layer, next stage of capital, I think we'll do very, very well with it. The fact that we have a Nigerian academic institution organizing a conversation like this on a weekend says that we're doing things right, and we're taking matters into our hands. And I want to challenge yourself, the department, how we can work together more to speak to the corporate world that this, yes, it's a business that depends on creatives, but it's a business with its own merits. It's a thriving business that, a lot of the potential we're still scratching. So I know I talk very passionately about these things. I will summarize my points again about access to capital, the ability to do in-depth market research on the audience, with the professionals and the kind of investors that can come in, and then also our own strategic communications of what's going on in our industry. So like I said, by attending festival markets, all those things, those are the things that will attract the kind of attention that we need, to grow the sector.
Great. I will certainly take you up on that at some point. You have thrown down the gauntlet for we in academia, and we'll pick it up.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Well, let me turn now to the various questions here. Otherwise, people are going to be very upset. There are quite a few of them. Let's start with the one of Ochi. Ochi would like to know what your thoughts are on Netflix versus Iroko. Iroko is Nigerian, Netflix is not. I think we can link this to the question of, well, it's also Ochi's question, who's asking, is Netflix a cultural enabler or a cultural enemy? There are two.
Wow.
That's a tough one, right?
Tough one, very tough, very, very tough. Very, very tough. Look, I have to say the entrance of Netflix, or the coming of Netflix to the market, is a very welcome development. I am struggling to see what the immediate negatives can be, if any at all. in a period where we've gone through how many devaluations in the last 5 years and recessions, and like I said, no real intent towards our content, in a market where the local players have not really demonstrated, they've not demonstrated a positive posture, towards valuing local content. And these guys have come, looked at their data points, and paying significantly higher than our local players. Yeah, a lot of people might, be critical about the kind of people that they've worked with. But again, it's data points. It's people that have proven themselves over time. It's really a struggle for me to bash Netflix. I can't, even if I wanted to, based on also my contractual obligations and our partnership with them. But I like people to look at it just objectively in terms of the global spotlight on Nigerian content, on the Nigerian creative that this platform gives us. At no time have we had conversations about our films, about our art form, than this period that Netflix has given us that spotlight. And I want us to be very, very positive in our outlook. And as the Nigerians that we are, we make good or make the best of very, very challenging situations. So now that we have this opportunity, I think we should be looking a lot more positively and to see how can we take real advantage of it for our own benefits. How can we get more people watching, so that the more people are watching, they're paying subscriptions that would trickle down back to us? Yes, it's capitalism. Yes, Netflix will make a lot of the money, but the way it works typically around the world is when you have strong subscriber base in your market, of course, that would trickle down to how much content is paid for and how content is valued. So how can we do that? How can we challenge, government and private institutions to ensure that our internet infrastructure is better? Those are the things that we need to look at. How can we as stakeholders ensure that it's a win-win situation? And somebody asked cultural enabler or cultural, there was a word they used to describe it. How can we ensure that through policy, through policy interactions, through regulation that is fair and objective, how can we ensure that all the other, various infrastructure, all the other platforms also benefit? Now, how do we also ensure that everybody is competitive? Those are the things that, our governments, we all need to find ways to lobby and pressure them for those things to happen organically. It should not be like, oh, Netflix has come, how do we find a way to stifle? How do we find a way to cripple and discourage them to go? And then when they've gone, we start having regrets of how we didn't handle it well. So for me, sir, I think that, so far, so good with Netflix. Of course, it's a relationship that's evolving. We need to also be very careful to ensure that we take hold of our narrative. And from a FilmOne standpoint, we ensure that we demonstrate competence, we demonstrate integrity, the kind of things that they want to see in trusted partners, and to say, we know what we're doing here and it will be our way, so that, we avoid another colonization. So those are the things that I'm very passionate about, that when you do come, and we do like the fact that you have all the resources. When you do come, you find people that can speak the language that you understand, creatively and business-wise. People that are ready to follow contracts, people that, that kind of stuff. So we make sure that we have those things in place. Iroko versus Netflix. I think, look, it's Iroko, the founder is my great friend, Jason, and they've done very, very well. I would like to think that their business models are slightly different, even though they are in the same in the same VOD space. But I think the challenge has been thrown out as well to them is, how are you going to value, or how are you going to handle local content and local content creators? What space do you want to play in? Do you want at the premium content space? How do you want to manage that side of things, by the kind of fees you pay, by the commissions you make? How do you make your own platform attractive to local users? Look, Netflix I've had the years of almost they were unchallenged for a number of years, but look at the close-up that Disney has had on them. It is, it's business enterprise. You have to be ready. in this field to compete. And right now, competition is about eyeballs. Eyeballs are about the content you put on it. And my brother Jason, all we keep talking about is how we can be better in putting out the best content out there. Almost the same thing with FilmOne and our production side. How do we ensure we have the right people and we're doing the work behind the scenes to get the best content out there? So for me, I think that we do need Netflix in the market, and we all that are in the space with them, in the VOD space, need to all step up. And if that's DSTV today or Showmax, or which is the same, or the other telco enabled VOD platforms, nobody can be complacent. And I think at the end it benefits the content creator. If everybody competes very, 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 very well for content, it only means that excess demand for your content means that the price will go up. So I think it's a win-win. One point I wanted to make: it can become controversial, and it can become a curse if we just fold our arms and all we do is criticize. It can become a curse if people are misrepresenting us when they are given the opportunity to dialogue with these guys. It can become a curse when everything we're doing is just for the commercials, not in terms of principles or legacy. So as with every relationship, you have to keep evaluating it. You have to keep looking at it for its merits, and you have to keep ensuring that you have bargaining power every time. And for me, that would be my own address to the concerns about, maybe stifling creativity or culture, or being maybe too dominant, or maybe, challenging a lot of our cultural and traditional values, and those kind of things. Those would be my ways of mitigating that.
Okay, thank you, Moses. Now, I have a question here from Angel Works, who asks, what prospects are there for independent documentary filmmakers to engage with you for distribution and even cinema exhibition? Can you quote any successful examples from your track record?
Okay, thank you, sir. And I'll try and be brief about this. Documentaries, I think in the next few years, we're going to see a lot more demand and interest in documentaries. I think the documentaries like, I think The Journey of an African Colony, marked lately, Our Boys. I'm trying to think of one or two other documentaries that have made an impression. You will continue to see those being in demand by streamers, particularly Netflix. They've shown an interest in that. From a cinema standpoint, just as I've described what the cinema experience is, right now, there's no data to suggest that it will work commercially in cinemas. I can't recall anyone we've done, but by virtue of the research we've put out, and we've done this over the years, there is no real appetite to come see a documentary feature in cinemas. There, like I said, real appetite. So there will be some, but not in the kind of numbers that is enough to justify, the screen time and a lot of the business expense that will be the expenses that will be deployed, to have it played in cinemas. I do, however, think that as we continue to grow cinemas, and I pray very soon exponentially, that we can be more experimental with this kind of field. I believe that I really, really believe that there is a future for documentary storytelling in the next few years. But just for cinema right now, it's a struggle. If you think that we are going to release maybe 150 films plus Nigerian films this year, that only a fraction would be box office hits. To then put documentaries into it, knowing that people struggle with it in cinema, I wouldn't advise to make such for a cinema run. However, advise that the VOD platforms, particularly the likes of Netflix, should be in your plan. In terms of getting in touch with us, via email, we're very responsive via email. For the benefit of those here, auxiliary at filmoneng.com is a very good email to send to. And like the documentary bit is auxiliary, so anything non-cinema is auxiliary for us, and that's how we'll be able to take a look at your work. Of course, you can reach out to us on our social media platforms. I'm on LinkedIn, so reach out if you want to. I won't promise an immediate response, but what I will promise is to direct you to the contact that it deals with it. I always say the best way than sending me 10 paragraphs or even 4 or 5 paragraphs is send me a link or send me a YouTube link to your trailer or what you've got. That's the best pitch possible. And so we're actively looking for documentaries that are thought-provoking and that are very interesting.
Great, thank you very much. We have shared the email address there, so if people want to get it from the chat box. Now we have a question here from Dofa. I hope I pronounced that correctly. What are the plans to have global distribution of Nollywood movies, or even within Africa, for starters? I thought The Wedding Party 2 was going to be a first amongst many, but that hasn't been the case.
Okay, sir. So when we talk global distribution, I think we achieved it with The Wedding Party to an extent. So it was released in 22 countries around the world. So we did it. The only reason why we didn't go to more countries was we just needed to justify, make the economics make sense. It's very expensive to release in a number of these territories, expensive in the sense of marketing. Pre the pandemic, a lot of these, big cinema chains had all the blockbusters. I actually think, in direct response to this question, the future looks very good, for Nigerian cinema and Nigerian films globally, because pandemic means that everybody, in the cinema industry globally are now more flexible and are now seeing the strength of international content. So I think that we will get support from a lot of the global cinema chains. Another thing that I see is that the likes of Netflix have put a spotlight and have validated that there is a market for our content. If not, they would have not been here for all these years and buying content aggressively and also making content originals. So, as you know, like most content executives, they're very aware of what's going on. So everybody, and that's why we also try to make a big deal of announcing or like I said, the yearbook, like just stating the facts that people might not know and are not aware of. I remember, getting Omogeto into the cinema in Dubai. It was just by saying, do you know that a local film in Nigeria did better than Wonder Woman, and provided the data, and that was it. So we need to keep articulating our local successes, to unlock global distribution. So I'll divide global distribution into two: global theatrical distribution. That is an ongoing thing, sir. We have access to cinemas in Southern Africa, in Eastern Africa, in the United Arab Emirates, for Omogeto, we released in Abu Dhabi and Al Sharab and Dubai. And so we have that relationship now, and they want to know what the next film is. That was our first ever. We've released in Holland. We have relationship with Germany, in Italy. We released in the UK, comprises of England and Scotland. We released in Canada. We're yet to release in the US formally, although there have been releases in the past. I believe a film called Dr. Bello released in there. And then in the Caribbean. Oh, yes. So we global theatrical distribution, we have that. And just to excite people, well, in talks with India and China right now as well, because they are also a consumer of, international content. So we have great plans, and we really want to take advantage of this momentum that our cinema and our industry, is getting, in terms of global theatrical distribution. And in terms of global digital distribution and all that, Netflix is kind of solving that for us on the VOD side, for those that can make it to Netflix. For those that can't make it to Netflix, there are a number of other platforms like Amazon that you can upload, your content yourself. You wanted to do it directly or use an aggregator like us. We also supply to airlines. And again, I tell filmmakers, it's okay to want to do your own film and do it on your own terms. But please do your studies, find out all the things that have worked before, because you can do a great film in your own opinion that you think is the best film, but is it worthy enough of the buyer's interest? That's what you must think about. Like, in a world where there's thousands of content, why would they want to pick yours? You need to find a way to answer this. What are the unique, selling points? So I find that a lot of people have ambitions. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a filmmaker. Everybody wants to do film in their own silos. Whilst you can collaborate and get the work there, get the work out and get the returns, or whilst you can take some more time to study and research what works. All those things are very, very important to then access, a global market. But the good news is, unlike 3-4 years ago, where the market of buyers was narrow, we have real interest in this market. We have real interest in our work, but it's really, really about the kind of content that is appealing to the buyers.
Great. Thanks a lot. Now, I have a question from Samuel here, which is a rather complicated one. Are you familiar, Samuel says, with the Beijing Treaty on Audiovisual Performance, which probably will become law in Nigeria soon, that encourages producers to share in quotation marks, copyright authorship and ownership with actors and movies? What will be your sentiment and reality as a movie producer, copyright owner, when this issue comes up in Nigeria?
Look, it's inevitable. I'm aware of it, and it's important that I am aware in my field. Do I totally understand it? No. But in our field, it's important to know what the latest legislation is. Like I said, because our field is emerging, we have to be also at the forefront of the policies that are being made, the policy makers, and the engagements with them. And through, for example, the Cinema Exhibitors Association of Nigeria, which I'm secretary of, we're trying to do more of that. Look, I don't know whether I have an opinion on that side of things, but I think that we just need to find, a fair framework in terms of copyright management, in terms of copyright handling, and in terms of copyright laws in the country. I don't want to be unfair to a lot of the lawyers and a lot of people working behind the scenes to ensure that our copyright framework is working in the country. But before recently, there's not been much done, about it. So I definitely entertain the conversations. I definitely entertain, it being brought to the fore. But what is crucial is for the stakeholders to be involved and for these things not to happen, without their notice or without their input. I think that's what we must guard against. Like I said, we would be, because of the growth that we're seeing in our industry, or let me say the interest, because a lot of people might argue with the growth, the interest that we're seeing, global interest in our industry, it's only natural that a lot of the things we've taken for granted in the past would now become really, 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 really important. We will just continue to engage. We're working hard with the guilds and the associations. We're working hard with the censors board. We're working hard with believe it or not, with the reps, House of Reps, and the Senate. We want to even be better in our engagements with them, just to ensure that we're guiding, and being at the table, of discussions on where the industry goes to in terms of next levels.
Great, thank you. Uchenna makes an observation that the claim that Nigerians will only go to the cinema to watch certain kinds of films, often comedies with no strong storylines, is something I find contradictory, because Western films do well in the cinema. But I think that ties into the observation you made that we need to carry out more research for all of this. So audience analysis.
Honestly, I like to quickly take it. Filmmakers, we filmmakers and film enthusiasts need to stop being opinionated. Let's look at data. You have the yearbook, look at the top 25 films of all time. what were the kind of films that worked. And we always know in life, it's a fact in life, there will be exceptions, but the exception is not the norm. So why want to stick on the exception? If you want to stick on the exception, make sure you're ready to take the risks that goes with it. So those would be my responses. Be ready for the risk that goes with. Nobody's saying go make a sci-fi film. For all you care, go make a horror film for cinema, but make sure it's so well done and so well marketed, and let's see what comes out of the box office. But what the box office tells us is that people want a lot of light-hearted stuff.
If I may just ask you, Moses, where can people download or see this report? Because I don't think many of us have actually seen that 2020 yearbook. Is it accessible somewhere online?
So, sir, what we would do is, if the university, if your institution wants to make it available publicly, we can send you a copy that you can then make available publicly. We have a link,
okay,
but but we can just send you a copy, and then you can make available to everyone that wants it.
Oh, fantastic! That'll be great, because I think some of the data there is very enlightening reading. It's very enlightening. Okay, let's take Jason's question. Jason is asking, what's the first step in your distribution process for a film that's not yet made? That is, do you read the script or treatment first, or do you wait until the film is actually made?
Very good question. And I really salute that person. Great you're asking it. Very simple. Reach out to a distributor with a treatment or the script. Usually right now with scripts, we charge for reviewing it. We charge, it's a commercial, it becomes a commercial discussion because it takes time, to go through and, and evaluate it for its merits. But a treatment is a very good first step. Of course, we'll go through the legal processes, which is an NDA, just to ensure that you feel very secure and safe, that no one is, taking your work. And then we ask you for the treatment. And if we think it's a very strong premise or strong idea, then, we will say proceed and do a script. And then if you want to continue on that process with us, then you send us the script when it's done, and then we then let you know what the terms of a script review would be, would provide a script report. If it's positive and it's very complimentary, that it can be a commercial work, or it will do well in the cinema particularly, then we will let you know, and then you can proceed to do it. But with also a disclaimer that our consideration of it for possible distribution, if you are looking our way, will be subject to the finished work. So there's a lot of steps, but it's what's taken at every step to kind of manage the risks.
Great. Now there are a couple of messages of support. Here, Tiolua Logo reminds everyone that FilmOne is a business. So showbiz is a business of show. And here, everyone, he says, is expecting FilmOne to act like a savior to all Nigerian film producers rather than a business. I mean, just a message of support. And then also,
thank you very much. Who's that person? Who's that person? Let me give the person a big shout out.
This is Tiolua Logo. Olakumbi Black.
Tiolua Logo. Thank you very much. Very, very nice. Big shout out to Kene and Shaya. I see them in the background.
Okay.
Those are great filmmakers, right? Those are great films right there.
Right. We also have Stella. Stella says, great job you're doing with FilmOne, Moses. I am an investor who has become interested in Africa's film industry. My question is, does FilmOne make room for partnerships with individuals interested in investing in film production?
Thank you. Sandra, right?
No, Stella. That's Stella.
Stella. Thank you, Stella. Thank you. So we're first of all, thank you for, and that's not patronizing, but thank you for the interest in the sector. It's really great to find when people, see the creative industry and film sector and appreciate what we're doing and want to be a part. So I don't take that lightly. So thank you for that. From a FilmOne standpoint, we're very, very careful about funding partnerships, just from a corporate standpoint, and we'll rather we'll rather want it to be part of a film fund. And even with that, our criteria is quite, it's quite stringent, because we want to know source of funds, we want to know, the profession of the person. We want to ensure that the fund doesn't compromise our standing with our partners. So I don't want to say no. We don't currently do that, but I envisage a period, and very soon, because we're getting a lot of these inquiries, a period where we would act to kind of aggregate a pool of funds that would be then managed on our behalf, but would all then go through almost a private placement mechanism where we shortlist all the participants and let them know the methodology and the time frame, the returns, all that kind of stuff. But it's something we're still thinking about and we're not doing. So we don't do that currently, but we're not foreclosing the opportunity to.
Okay. Ochanya has a question here, in which he says, do you think the fact that the highest grossing record was broken due to escapism as a result of the pandemic, something similar to Hollywood's exploitation of the Great Depression? If so, are there any partnership or experimental plans to develop commercial frameworks to replicate that within this period?
Wow, that's a scholar right there. I should come to your school. The way that has been, the way that question has been framed. So look, so I think that in that question there are some answers. I feel like there was pent up demand, and we got to a point as a people where for Christmas you were taking away that one moment, in our lives where we just share experiences, where we're always celebrating. And there comes this second wave that is depriving us of a period of the year that has become very iconic for Nigerians, for those that are coming home from the diaspora, for those that are going, to their local villages, for those that want to have social time. So I feel like there's a lot of like a kind of an aggression, that look, we're not going to have this anymore. But of course, we're not going to throw out our health and safety off the window, but we'll go out and see something that makes us happy. I think that the film played to that kind of narrative then. But what we didn't take for granted leading up to that was, look, we are facing capacity restrictions. We're facing a lot of narrative that cinemas are not safe. We're facing a lot of narrative that cinemas are failing in box office around the world because of the pandemic. So what can we do to ensure that we open as strong as possible? And I give credit to the filmmaker, Funke Akindele. She is an amazing filmmaker, but even a hard worker that maybe don't give her, a lot of credit for. She worked with us and listened to us all the way through. One of the things that she did very well, the film was ready 3 months before release. And like a lot of people that were turning to go to streaming, and rightly so, to think that way, she was very nervous that, look, would my investments be on the line if I went to cinemas? But by having the film ready, we were able to assess the commercial viability. By watching the first cut, I knew that this was a special film. Not because it might meet, the average, film critics standards of what a great film is, or those that are on the festival circuit or for the awards. But in terms of a commercial production, very, very relevant for our time and relevant for the release period, it struck all the right tones and all the right chords. And I was like, look, this is going to be a game changer. I'm so happy I still have the WhatsApp chat we had. On September 27, I told her the film will be ₦1 billion, because I was predicting that as of December, COVID would have been going, or that the capacity restrictions would have been gone. And so we set in motion a number of activities. She came with a lot of ideas, the music video, the experiential stuff, traditional marketing, media partnerships. There was a lot of stuff, poster concepts, and we were very, very far in advance in terms of the thinking, and it was painstakingly done. She even asked which kind of PR people would use, and in terms of PR, we always say film PR. People that understand how to take the elements in the film and make editorials out of it, editorials that will generate end media, as opposed to things that you pay for. So we were very, very, it was one of those projects that I'm so proud about. We were very, very involved in every process, that the results, isn't fluke. The results are just a natural reward for, a project that you put a lot into. And that speaks to that point of, can we commercialize, or can we formalize those steps that we're taking? I believe we can, but the product is also a very key component of making that kind of process successful. So, look, it's just like, what are the biggest films? Avatar. You won't have Avatar every year. You won't have the Star Wars films, every time. They come once in a while. But I think that there are lessons that we can learn from how Omogeto was successful, that we can, introduce to other very important films. And it will be great to see how it evolves. One last point that I've always been making when I engage in forums like this is, our film marketing or film advertising space is another opportunity. It's very, at the moment, advertising in Nigeria is very expensive. If you go anywhere in the West, in the mature markets, you find, film promotion on everywhere. You find it underground, you find it in London on the London buses, in the US or New York, you find it, you find it everywhere, in LA, you find it everywhere. And they can justify that because of the number of screens. We don't have the number of screens, and yet the cost of advertising is a lot. I feel like if we can find a way where cost of advertising, cost of marketing are not necessarily subsidized, but if there's a special rate for creatives, I think that's another layer, of that we can unlock. People just don't know enough of that cinemas exist and that they can go in and have a good time, and a lot of that is because it's so expensive. And a lot of that is also because we can't justify spending, multiples of our production budgets on marketing and not being sure of the return. But you can actually, promote a film so much that it doesn't have to be the greatest film, but you've promoted it so much that people will troop in waves to see it, and it in a way kind of pays for itself. So I think that advertising and marketing, another way, if we can find a way to get the cost down for creatives, for the industry, I think that can also help us in generating more growth.
Thank you, Moses. I will put two questions together here. Yvonne is asking whether you can recommend some film PR firms. And also Alex says, thank you for these insightful reflections. I found your point on marketing innovations fascinating. Could you go into more detail on current and future developments? Also, has there been any particular marketing professionals who have been important in driving this change?
Wow. Sir, please take that question again.
Okay. Alex says, Moses, thank you for these insightful reflections. I found your point on marketing innovations fascinating. Could you go into more detail on current and future developments? Also, has there been any particular marketing professionals who have been important in driving this change?
Okay. I think that's Alex Bod. I see him on the video.
That's
Alex
right.
interviewed me.
That's right.
These were the guys. And to be honest, Alex kind of saw the future as well with what we're doing. So great, Alex. I'm happy you can witness what's going on. And we hope that it continues to be better. Look, I think that the pandemic gave us an opportunity to really dig deep and find ways to craft compelling communications to our usual cinema goers, but those that would have been skeptical about health and safety. I think one of the things that we needed to do very well was to also get sympathy from a lot of the audience. That look, we are at the verge of a collapse. A cinema industry that is very celebrated, and on the social side of things, it's important to our citizenry, for those that can afford it. But from an economic standpoint, for the retail developers, cinemas have become major anchors. So we had to put an appeal, and I think that in itself was a marketing mechanism, to like, look, the cinemas are here, but we are safe. We are keeping the protocols as much as we can. We've been shut down for 7 months. There are no palliatives. A lot of us are on the brink. We had to infuse that kind of sympathy message, and I think, and we got some support. Another thing we had to infuse was also like, look, guys, come and enjoy the best of this. Please just wear your mask. And here are the things that we're doing in terms of the cleaning of the screens, in terms of the messaging on the screens about safety, in terms of capacity restrictions. I'm going to hold my hands up and say, I think as much as we could, we try to uphold a lot of the capacity restrictions. But in some instances, I can't speak for everyone that, we upheld that. But thankfully, a lot of the pre-entry checks, all of those things were done. Until date, we don't have any cases of COVID with any. Also, what we also did was, in terms of experiential past, I've had an impact. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me, sir?
You can hear you. Yes.
Okay, sorry. I was not sure. My internet connection was playing up. In terms of experiential marketing, the premieres I've always, if well executed, the premieres have always been a good tool. So we thought about the premieres differently. Again, the safety components coming into that, making the wearing of masks a lot more trendy, and those are some of the things that we're doing, with that. We had to turn to social media a lot. And I know, Alex, I'm speaking about all the commonly used marketing trends, but I think the difference in our innovation was just, the communication of health and safety to our audiences and finding that sympathy level. And I think it really worked. Let me also tell you something that worked that was not in our planning. I think the audience becoming used to a consistency of Nollywood titles on Netflix particularly gave a sense of, what, these films are actually improving. And for Nigeria in particular, there was a sense of, let's see it first. If you notice, around the world, when we release a lot of these films in cinemas, like, when is it coming around the world? So there was a following here in Nigeria where people were like, okay, you know what, we're going to go see this. We'll see it first before it comes on Netflix. And we found out there's a positive correlation of the popularity of Nigerian films on Netflix and the growth that we're seeing in cinemas when it comes to Nigerian films. In fact, the average box office for the films that have been released in this first third of the year suggests that, something has shifted and people are keen to watch more Nigerian films. Critics might say, oh, there's not enough Hollywood films. I say they're making a conscious decision to watch Nollywood films. So we're seeing a lot of that work for us. You asked about marketing professionals pushing the envelope. I think we have a great team. We have a great team in-house. Great guys. Mimi Battles, our head of production. Ladu Aoboku, our head of distribution. Victoria Olga, Thelma, Christine, Morenike, Victoria. I can list and Duke, the guys that work in technical, Ifedo. Look, these guys are great. And our marketing guys, Joanne, Okpe, Lanre, these guys are really, really good. And they've kind of created, a real career out of knowing how to position films and how to ensure they work in the box office. But I want to also shout out a number of professionals in this. Some people like Big Sam, people like Somi Solutions, people like R&B PR. Those guys understand, how to, in terms of film PR, they know what to do and have a decent track record doing it. Of course, the production companies as well that have always put in a lot of marketing efforts should also be given a lot of kudos. Inkblot Productions, Ebony Life, Corporate World Entertainment, owned by AY, Omonio Boli, Toyin Abraham, Funke Akindele, Kemi Adetiba. Look, if you mention a list of all these guys, Play Network, and that's coming in a short space of time, these are people that are putting marketing at the forefront of a lot of work that they're doing. Jade Osiberu, Kayode Kasum. These are guys that, when they do work, they put a lot of emphasis in marketing. Bolanle Peters. I feel like there are 15 or 20 that have always shown that marketing is very, very key to what they do. I apologize for those I couldn't call their names, because you asked about those professionals. Those are the people that do, and there are a number of graphics teams. So another area, and I don't know if anybody's following the success of Prophetess, for example. Nia Kimolayo has catapulted himself to be more than a filmmaker. He's become a film marketer extraordinaire, and using social media, using his platform to give a lot of information, coach a lot of people, and using that to galvanize the following and putting a product that can match a lot of his talk. So he's another person that deserves a lot of, and he's great. A lot of people don't know about Ni's post-production facility. Great with, trailers, teasers, some really great promotional materials, and they deserve a lot of credit for innovative marketing that we're seeing. So I think that that's what really comes to mind in terms of the kind of people that I've worked with that has helped propel the industry.
Thank you so much, Moses. Our time really is up, but let me just ask you to give very quick responses, please, to two questions here. Okay is asking, with reference to a previous response that you gave in terms of how to put together a film or start the process. She says, what if it's a book? If it's a book that one wants to turn into a film, would it be the same process as when one is starting a film? Should you come with the book, the script, or whatever? Then also, there's a question here from Jason who says, can I make my first feature film in the UK and reach out to you for distribution?
Okay. The first one, very excited about literary works. It's a very interesting space now. And that process is very bespoke. We're looking at it very keenly and very specially. So I would say it's not the same as the conventional film process. So I would say that you should reach out to M Battles at FilmOne NG. She won't like me for this because our inbox is going to be full. She's our head of production, and she's also on LinkedIn, and that's a field that she's looking after. We launched a Global Originals. We'll announce very soon department where we're looking into things like this, literary works, and a number of various areas as well to get into film or series. So that's an interesting one. So that's a contact to make. The second question, I think, just escaped me now.
The second one was, can I make my film in the UK and bring it to you for distribution?
So yes, but it really depends if it ticks the right boxes. So who is the film made for? Does it have, particularly for cinema distribution or cinema release, it needs to be beyond a great film. It needs to have something I can sell. Like when I mean something I can sell, do I have a face or do I have something very topical? I would say more of a face. It needs to have a star. It needs to have somebody known for cinema, right? I don't want to compromise on that. It's important, particularly if it's coming from outside in. So it needs to have that. But if it's for other platforms, then we can also take a look, but we need to be able to justify what its unique selling points are. So is it the Nigerian experience, for example, abroad? Is it a Black story? Is it, just a great story that is intriguing, that can, capture the imagination or the interest of, an average, film lover? It has to have something. So the answer is yes, please, we would like to would like to explore and look at it, but don't be offended if we feel there is no potential audience or market for it.
Okay, thank you so very much, Moses. I will not have used the privilege. Our time really is up. My apologies really to all those whose questions we have not been able to take. Our time really is up. And I think it's been a fascinating conversation. You can see that people really want to hear so much from you, and we're loaded with so many questions. So, but really, I think there are so many things you've said here that we need to take up on, especially in terms of putting together the data and getting answers to all of these questions. So thank you so much, Moses. I know it must be quite challenging for you. And by the way, the internet did not fail you, okay? So
I am super happy because I was so looking forward to this, and thank you. I want to say thank you to the students. I want to say thank you to everybody that's logged in. I want to say thank you to all those that are, documenting, this great period we are in this industry. And, I want to say, look, there's so many things that we know we can't say for confidential reasons and all that, but the future is indeed very bright. I want to say thank you to what your institution is doing, practically and in a very, very direct manner to influence the industry. I will be more than willing, wherever possible, to come share some more knowledge. I want to please plead with you all that are in the film space. Continue to see films, continue to check out what's going on. Please continue to keep yourself informed of what's going on. More importantly, keep yourself also updating your skills on your skill set. Ignorance cannot be tolerated, particularly in academia. There's so much information around, right? And please, let's stick to the facts and to data. There will be a lot of emotion in this business. It's there. But look, we are a business. And I want to correct that. We are a business. It's important that we succeed to validate the potentials of the industry, if that makes sense. It's important that, other businesses like us succeed as well, or, and more, and we get more businesses coming. We saw an opportunity that we think we cannot say no to. We hope that more and more people come in, So please help us in addressing some of the bashing we get sometimes. but we only mean well. We only do really mean well, and for the benefit of the industry. So thank you so much, sir.
Right. Thank you, Moses. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's not an easy thing to do on a Saturday. So thank you for the time. And we will upload this video once it's ready on our YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to take a second look at something or clarify something, it will be available there. So thank you once again, Moses, and thank you, everyone. And do take very good care of yourselves. All the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Au revoir.
Bye-bye.